What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Comic Book Flashback. I'm Marvel Across 316, and today we are looking at Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 34. And today we're looking at the title of Inheritance here. And so we see on the cover, it looks like the symbiote is coming on to Spider-Man. So this is the first appearance of the symbiote costume for Spider-Man here. And so it looks like Spider-Man is going to get first dibs at this Venom project here. And so how does this all take place? We're going to have to figure all this out as we look at this issue today. So before we get started, go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe if you have not. And let's go ahead and get started. Previously in Ultimate Spider-Man, Peter is shocked to find out that Mary Jane Watson, his girlfriend and sole confidant, can't handle the pressure of being Spider-Man's girlfriend and breaks up with him. Peter finds a collection of his deceased father's belongings in basement storage. He discovers a video of his life before his parents died in a mysterious plane crash. Peter goes to visit college student Eddie Brock, the son of his father's partner, to catch up on old times. Eddie and Peter used to play together as kids. Eddie takes Peter to the campus science center and shows him a container of frozen black liquid. Peter asks what it is. Eddie says, "It's our inheritance." And as always, this issue is brought to you by Brian Michael Bendis, who wrote this issue. We have Mark Bagley on the penciling, Art Thibbert on the inking, Chris Elapoulos, lettering page, C.B. Cebulski, associate editor, Brian Smith, associate editor, Ralph Macchio, editor, Joe Quesada, editor-in-chief, and Bill Jamas, president and inspiration. So now we pick up where we left off last issue. We have Peter Parker and Eddie Brock. They're both looking at this vial of liquid, this black liquid, and Peter, like we said, basically this is Peter's and Eddie Brock's inheritance. It's basically their dad's life work. And so Peter's like, "I just don't understand, Eddie. What is this?" Eddie says, "This is what our fathers were working on when they died. This is their life's work, or would have been if they had been given the chance to see it all the way through." And so as Peter and Eddie Brock continue to talk, Eddie Brock basically reveals that this suit basically is what they named it, and it's supposed to be the cure for cancer. And we see the shock on Peter's face here. He's like, "What?" And he said, "And they were close. According to my dad's notes, either they were really close or my dad was just way too excited. It's kind of hard to decipher a lot of the notes so far. Either they're hugely disorganized or parts are missing. Maybe your dad had some." Peter says, "Maybe." And he says, "Plus, I mean, who knows what they had on them when the plane went down, right? Without the help of my professor, I don't think I would have been able to make heads or tails." And so basically, Eddie Brock reveals that his professor, his college professor, is none other than Dr. Kurt Connors. That's right. And if you know that name, you know that Dr. Kurt Connors is the lizard, but I guess he's not the lizard yet in this universe. And so Peter and Eddie Brock look at these notes here. Basically, this is the suit that basically Eddie Brock and Peter Parker's dads were working on. And we also learn that both Peter Parker and Eddie Brock's dad basically work together as employees, work for hire employees for this company. They worked for none other than Oliver Trask. And so I think it might be just, I don't know if it's Oliver Trask. I think it's just Trask. I don't know his first name. But anyway, we see here that basically Trask found out about their experiment, put the experiment on hold, and basically took their rights away, saying, "No, we own this suit now. It's our property." And basically they got into a lot of legal things, as we see. As Peter Parker basically reads this note, he says, "Our worst fear realized. We were locked out of our own laboratories and our project taken away from us. I know that Richard blames me for all this, and I can't say he is wrong. I'm the one who pushed him into this deal with Trask. I'm the one who wanted out of the day-to-day grind of fundraising in the private sector, and now everything he warned me might happen happened. Now our days are going to be filled with lawyers and weasels when all we really want to do is finish the project we both dedicated our lives and the lives of our families to. And so they had this huge deal, this huge problem with Trask and Trask taking away the experiment. And lo and behold, it was not but maybe 2 or 3 days later, both Peter and Eddie Brock's parents died in that plane crash. And Peter's like, what? So maybe there's something going on between Trask and the death of our parents. Maybe Trask was involved in the death of our parents. And so we see here that basically the reason why Eddie has been able to get a sample of this suit is because Eddie's grandfather kept it hidden in the freezer for like 10 years. And so then Eddie moved this vial of black goo, this liquid, to Reed Richards' Science Center here. And so Peter and Eddie are the only ones that have access to this. And basically, also we see here that Eddie Brock realizes and tells Peter about how this suit, basically, when you put the suit on, it looks at any area of your body that has cancer and it's supposed to cure it as well as gives the person basically superhuman strength here. And it takes a part of their DNA as well. As we see here, whose DNA did they use? You said it was DNA specific. Whose DNA did they use? Eddie Brock says, your dad's. So we see that this black goo has Peter's dad's DNA on it. And so Peter's glancing at it. So we see that after school lets out, Gwen's like, hey, where are you going? Are you waiting for a ride? And we see Peter sees Mary Jane in the glimpse of his eye. Mary Jane spots him speaking with Gwen Stacy and looks away. She's walking out with Liz Allen. He says, yeah, I'm waiting for my ride to come. And she said, who is it? Aunt May? And he said, no, not Aunt May. We hear a honk honk. It just so happens to be Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock, the college student, and now Peter Parker's new best friend, it looks like. He's coming by to pick up Peter Parker, and we see Gwen Stacy is going to join the ride here. And then we also see Mary Jane looking off in the distance, not too happy about what she's seeing. And we see Gwen starts to flirt with Peter Parker, says, geez, Peter, you're all muscle. Wow, look at you. Who would have thought? And so they drive away, and we see Liz Allen says, basically, Peter is nothing special. You need to move on, Mary Jane. And still, Mary Jane she has some feelings for Peter, but again, she's conflicted. She doesn't want to live the life that Peter does. And so we see that basically Eddie Brock is going to have lunch with Peter and Gwen, and we see that Flash Thompson and Kong are there as well. And they basically agree that Flash Thompson is the biggest loser on high school campus, basically, and all this talk continues to go on. When all of a sudden, we see Eddie Brock gets a phone call from Dr. Kirk Connors, and he's like, he's a pretty cool guy, but sometimes he likes to just spaz out sometimes, and something happened to him, and we don't know exactly what, but there's these rumors about him, and I can't reveal too much information to you. And so basically, Eddie Brock reveals, says like, Gwen, it's too bad you don't want to go to college because there's this reggae band playing on Friday night. I'm going to go ahead and invite both of you. Peter says, I can't, I have work. But Gwen says she wants to go. So it looks like Gwen Stacy is going to go to this reggae band with Eddie Brock. And we see that then Peter Parker basically goes right out and just says to Eddie, hey, do you think our parents were murdered? And he said, maybe, I just don't know. But if there was, to think that there was someone in the world so full of greed, so full of someone so evil that I couldn't even imagine something as horrible as that. And Gwen is catching all this. So back at Peter's home, Peter is listening to old videotapes of his dad, and his dad's telling Peter all the information that Eddie had just told him about how their experiment was taken away from them, the suit, and now they're dealing with legal problems here. And he basically tells Uncle Ben, he says, Uncle Ben, or basically Ben rather, Ben, if you're watching this, you were right. And now I feel like a failure. Peter gets angry here, basically, and says, that is it. Every time I turn around, there's some greedy piece of garbage looking to turn something of value into a twisted nightmare. Osborn, Nick Fury, Octavius, all of them garbage, preying on guys like my dad. Someone tries to do something worthwhile. Someone tries to make the world a better place. Then they found it. And what happened every time? They took it away from him, and well, I'm taking it back. And Spider-Man basically suits up. He's going to go back to where Eddie Brock has showed him that Venom suit, basically, and he's going to do experiments on it himself. He webs up the video camera, the surveillance camera, rather, unlocks the vial here, takes out that goo here, the black with a container here, takes off his spider glove and his mask, and just tries to get a little sample of it. All this going on while Eddie Brock and Gwen are on a little date here. He puts it on a spoon here, but some of the black suit starts to get on Peter's hand here. He tries to shake it off, but it continues to start spreading all over Peter's body here. Peter starts to panic here as the Venom suit continues to graft itself all over Peter. I mean, it engulfs his entire body. And we see that Peter is trying to surface here, trying to get some oxygen. Gwen is having a good time, as we see. And then all of a sudden, boom, we see Spider-Man looks a little different here. He's like, what's going on? And he looks at himself, and lo and behold, he now has the Venom suit, this black symbiote suit on himself now. And so this is how we end this issue. How is Peter Parker, how is Spider-Man going to deal with this new revelation here? This new revelation as he is now wearing the black suit. And so the big symbiote suit. So we'll have to find all this out in the next issue. Go ahead now, comment down below what you liked about this issue, and I will see y'all in the next one.